Hi everyone. So I'm going to be talking about this week's readings. So basically, this week's readings kind of just focus mainly on the social interactions between the educator and the parents. This is actually a very important process to have a very open line of communication with the parents and not restrict them, especially when it's parents of a child that's learning a new language, because these parents, just like other parents, have the same concerns of their cognitive development and how they're doing in class, but they also have a little bit more concerns in regards to the child's social interactions in the classroom, knowing that their child is not able to properly communicate with other children. And that's something that we looked into a little bit further, how to get those parents more involved. For example, you could simply just have the parents come in, lend you a hand, cutting little papers that you're going to use later on in class, or actually demonstrate a talent or a skill. For example, if a parent knows how to do something very specific, or they could come in and show the other children something about their culture, dress up in their native attire, or bring in native food and things like that. That's also a great way to get those parents involved. I personally believe that it's very important to have all parents involved, not only parents of children that are learning a new language. But it is very crucial to involve these parents, because this could also help the child's social standing amongst the other children, as other children are able to see. Some children don't understand that, oh, this child may not speak English, but he speaks another language. They kind of just push him off to the side. And when those children's parents come in and they see the back and forth conversation between the parent and the child, they understand, oh, okay, he does speak another language. He does know how to interact with other people. It's just he's shy. But this week's readings also brought up some things that are kind of not spoken about as often. For example, what parents might be asking you. And I think this is a great way to prepare any education student to talk with parents, as it's difficult sometimes to get certain parents to understand the process. That is why it's so important for us to understand the process which takes place when a child's learning a new language, that the child might become antisocial for a little bit, might not want to talk to other kids for a little while, and that is perfectly normal. And it goes on to what questions that the parents are actually asking within conferences or a small chat that they might come by and just start asking the teacher some questions. So it basically asks, how's our child doing in class? At this point, it's very important for us to know the proper development for that age group, because although the child may not know English per se in this situation, the child will still be able to reflect their developing skills. They're still going to understand math. They're still going to do certain things that are required for that age group. So it's important for us as educators to be aware and know the developmental stages within that age group, so that we're able to portray the proper information to the parents. As you know, it's a little bit different than telling a parent that speaks English, oh yeah, your child's doing great, it's fine, he's very social, and then telling a parent that child is learning English for the first time and kind of not being sure where the child stands, although they still should go about almost the same development as any other child. They just might have a few little glitches and changes because of the fact that they are learning English, so they might not be as social as other children. They might be going through their nonverbal stage and not want to be talking as much, but you could still see that the child is non-verbally communicating with you by pointing and asking questions via hand gestures or body language. And then it goes on to asking other questions about what language should be spoken at home. This is I feel that this is a very important question to know how to answer, because I feel that as an educator, that's not our place to let the parents know what language should be spoken at home. It really depends on the parents and their long-term goals. if these parents are just here for the meantime and they're planning on going back in 4 or 5 years, then I would suggest, I would think it would be best for you to continue speaking your home language in your home, because you want this child to be able to succeed wherever you decide to move to within 4 to 5 years. If the parents' long-term goals is to just stay here in the United States and move forward with our culture, then I would suggest, have a bilingual home. Show the child that it's okay to speak in English in the home, but continue educating them in your home language and continue to communicate in the home language. It is very important to have that cleared. And like I said, this is a very personal decision. I feel that as an educator, we have no voice in how the child should be communicating at home per se. But it is very important for the parents to know that if they do want their child to speak English proficiently and be able to communicate properly in a quicker process, I would suggest to allow the child to watch TV in English, allow the child to play games in English, and try to communicate himself in English. Of course, without completely getting rid of the home language, as that is something that does happen with children. Sometimes they go into a process where they go from speaking just the home language, monolingualism, to an active bilingualism, which is that they're just developing their second language and they're using it occasionally within the home, to a passive bilingualism, which basically means that they're not speaking the home language whatsoever in the home. They're only speaking it in English, but they do understand their home language still. And then eventually it could switch into a monolingualism, into English only, and they will not want to speak in another language. They may not want to speak their home language anymore. Some parents have done the whole "I can't understand you if you're not speaking the language I understand," and this kind of triggers the child to, oh, okay, I guess I could only speak to you in Spanish per se, or I could only speak to you in German or Italian for you to be able to understand what I'm trying to get, my message that I'm trying to get across to you. But that's, like I said, that's something that's up to the parents to decide. I don't feel that we're in a place where we should decide that for the parents. It depends on their long-term goals for the child and for their family in general. This chapter in Tabora also spoke about some different type of programs. For example, I spoke about the first language program, which is an exclusive use of home language. If your goal is to teach the child a new language and have them be bilingual, this would be the least successful program to use for the child. Then they have the transitional bilingual program, and basically it kind of just, it's one that's used in most of the school systems, and it's a transitional bilingual education, which involves the children who speak the same first language all attend one class together, and then for another part of the day, they go ahead and go into another class where they're learning their second language. So basically, it's the ESOL classes that most of us are probably used to seeing. You're taken away for a few hours in a day, and you're going to be speaking in your native tongue, your home language, and this instructor is basically just going to be helping you make more sense of certain vocabulary, certain grammar and punctuation that you need to know to be able to properly converse with other people. They will also teach you conversational skills and phrases that are very important in everyday conversation during these transitional bilingual programs. But then we also have the two-way bilingual program. I think this was something very interesting, and I'm sure that this is going to become more and more popular as the years go by, as it is important to be bilingual or trilingual. It's important to get children very involved in different languages, as it does give them more chances for better job opportunities and everything like that. Basically, with the bilingual program, you'll have first half of the day, everybody in the class will only speak English, and then the second half of the day, everybody in the class will only, for example, speak Spanish. Basically, it exposes all children to this language for an extended period of time during the day, which I feel it could be successful. Of course, there might be parents that might not agree with it. Maybe they don't want their child spending so much time talking in another language. Maybe they just want the regular Spanish elective course, but that of course goes back to the parents' decision. And these are different programs that could be offered in a school. It's the parents' decision whether or not they want to move forward with that program or not, or decide to go elsewhere. And then they have the general education programs with ESOL. Basically, this program assists students that do not speak English in their day-to-day activities. And then there's the ones with without the ESOL support. This one could be something that you might see somewhere where there's not a lot of different language speakers, probably more up north in the United States. But pretty much it does not have an ESOL program in the school, and the general education teacher has to set up the curriculum for her student that does need assistance in learning English. So she has to do a completely individualized education program for her new student. And then in the readings for Ada and Campoy, I thought it was pretty interesting because it did correspond a lot with what we were actually reading in One Child, Two Languages. And basically it just talked about the multiple learning approaches and how to get children to understand that they're able to learn in different languages, and able to learn different intelligences. The whole goal is to teach children about learning and goal setting, and for us to goal set. And there was something very interesting that was brought upon in Unit 8, where it spoke about bilingual and multilingual books. This is a great way to kind of involve other children's cultures into the classroom, since it does provide a vivid portrayal of the different social and cultural realities that we live in. Some children have never been exposed to children of other languages, and with a book, let's say the teacher knows that she's getting a new ESOL student in the classroom. With this book, it is able to help children understand that there are children that don't speak English, that there are children of different cultures that believe in different things. And that would be a great way to transition children in case you do not have an ESOL student. It also helps when you do have ESOL students for other children to be exposed to other books and understanding of the different cultures. And then it goes on to developing relationships, how we should honor others, understand other people's journeys, and basically focus on our own lives and be able to discuss about it. So that goes back into the relationships with the parents. It's very important to have an understanding of where they want to be, what they want to do, have an open line of communication with them at all times, so that we may be able to properly assist them when necessary and know how to go about in educating their child also, as children do have different ways of learning, and some kids, the culture makes it different for them too. So I truly enjoyed the readings this week, and those are my thoughts and opinions on it, and I hope you guys have a good day.